Hello everyone, in this lesson I'll cover Python data structures. For our objectives, we will understand data structures and we will explore and use Python data structures. A data structure is a container that stores and organizes data, and they're important because they offer quick data storage and access for running programs, and they can help you organize your data for the program. The Python data structure types we will cover are arrays, sets, dictionaries, stacks, queues, and priority queues. Our first Python data structure is arrays. Arrays store data contiguously or next to each other, and the data in an array is assigned to elements, which are variables that have a unique index number starting from 0. Arrays offer fast reading or lookup times, which is also known as O of 1 or constant time, but arrays are slow when it comes to searching, inserting, and deleting data. The Python array implementations we'll cover are list, tuple, str or string, bytes, byte array, and array. A list is a dynamic or mutable array. So this means that while your program is running, you can add or remove elements from the list. Lists allow you to store mixed data types, and here is the format for creating a list. So let's switch to the VS Code IDE and create a list. Let's create a variable named myList. And let's assign it square brackets. So this is an empty list. Now let's add items to the list. So let's start with a string. So this puts the value A to element 0. Let's add more items. So type a comma and let's add another string. So this will be at element 1. Let's add an int and then a floating point number and then a boolean. Now let's print out the list and let's run the program. And you see the list items. So we can replace the contents of a list. So let's go here and replace hello with something else. So let's go here before the print, and we know that hello is at element 1. So let's access that by typing my list, square brackets, and let's put a 1 in there. And then let's assign it something else. So I'll go for hi. Let's run the program. And you see that hello has been replaced with hi. Now, lists are immutable, meaning that you can add items to a list or remove items from a list while the program's running. So let's start with removing an item from the list. So let's come here and type del and then my list. And let's go take out the first element in the list. So let's go put square brackets in a 0. So this will delete element 0 from the list. Let's go run the program. And you see that A has been taken out from the list. Now we can append elements to the list. So we do that by typing my list, and then we'll call the append method. Type your parentheses, and then let's put in a value there. So I'll go for 88. Let's run the program, and you see 88 at the end of the list. So lists are immutable. A tuple is a non-dynamic array. Tuples are immutable, meaning that once you've created them, you can't add or remove elements while the program's running. Tuples allow you to store mixed data types, and here is the format for creating a tuple. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Let's create a variable named myTuple, and let's assign it parentheses. So this is an empty tuple. Now let's add some items to it. So let's start with some strings. And then let's add some numbers, and then a boolean. Let's print the tuple. Let's run our program, and you'll see the tuple items. Now, a tuple is immutable, meaning that when the program runs, you can't remove items from the tuple. So let's try that. So let's come here, and then type del, myTuple, and let's remove the first element. So put a square brackets and then a 0. Let's run our program. And you see that you get a type error stating that the tuple object does not support item deletion. Strings store Unicode text or keyboard characters. Strings are immutable, and here is the format for creating a string. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Let's create a variable named myString, and let's assign it a string. Let's print the string. And let's run the program, and you see the string value. So we can access the elements of a string. So for example, E is at element 1. So let's go print that out. So let's type square brackets here and then a 1. Let's run our program. And you see E is printed out. Strings are immutable, so we'll test that by attempting to replace the letter H with something else. So the letter H in hello is at element 0. So let's come here and delete that and then type my string and then square brackets and then 0. And then let's assign it a value of X. Let's run our program. And you see that we get a type error stating that the str object does not support item assignment. Let's go try another change. So let's delete this and then type del, my string, square brackets, and then a 0. So this will attempt to remove element 0 from the string. So let's run our program. And you see that we get a type error indicating that the str object does not support item deletion. Bytes store integers ranging from 0 to 255. Bytes are immutable, and here is the format for creating a bytes object. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Let's create a variable named myBytes, and let's assign it the bytes function. So this creates the bytes object. Now let's go in the parentheses and provide this with a tuple of bytes. So type your parentheses, and then let's put some numbers in there. So let's go with 0, type a comma, and then 128, and then 255. Let's go print the bytes. Let's run our program. And you see a hexadecimal representation of the numbers. So we got 00 for 0, 80 for 128, and double F for 255. So we can access the elements in the byte. So if we wanted to access 255, we can go here and type square brackets, and 255 is at element 2. So let's put that there. Let's run our program. And you see that we get 255. Now, recall that bytes accept a numeric range from 0 to 255. So let's come here and change this to 256. And then let's run the program. And you see that we get a value error indicating that the bytes object must be in range from 0 to less than 256. Now, bytes are immutable, so let's test that. So I'll change this back to 255, and then let's delete this line, and let's go change one of the elements. So type myBytes, and then square brackets, and let's attempt to change element 1's value. So let's put a 1 there, and then let's assign it a value of 4. Let's run our program. And you see that we get a type error indicating that the bytes object does not support item assignment. A byte array stores integers ranging from 0 to 255. A byte array is mutable, and here is the format for creating a byte array. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Let's create a variable named myByteArray. And then let's assign it the byte array function. So this creates a byte array object. So let's provide it a tuple of numbers. So we'll go for 0, 128, and 255. Let's print the byte array. Let's run our program. And you see the hexadecimal values. So just like a bytes object, we can access the elements in the byte array. So let's come here, and then let's access element 2. Let's run our program. And you see that that gives us 255. And a byte array is mutable, so you can replace the items that are already in it. So let's come here before the print, and then let's type my byte array, and then let's access element 2, and then let's change this to 4. Now let's run our program, and you see that 255 has been replaced with 4. So you can remove elements from a byte array. So let's come here and replace that with del, and then my byte array. And let's remove element 0. So type your square brackets and then a 0. And then we can just replace this with just a print of the my byte array. And let's run our program. And you see that element 0 has been taken out of the byte array object. And we can append items to the byte array as well. So let's come here and then type my byte array. And let's call the append method. Type your parentheses, and let's go append 255 again. Let's run our program. And you see that we have another hexadecimal representation of 255 at the end of the byte array. The array from the array module stores C-style data types such as int, float, double, and so on. Arrays are immutable, and they store values of the same data type. Here's the format for creating an array. The type code represents the data types such as f for float, I for int, and so on. And the initializer can be a list or a tuple of values. Let's switch to VS Code and create an array. Before creating an array, we have to import the array function from the array module. So let's come here and type from array, import array. Let's hit enter. So the first type of array we'll create is an integer array. So let's come here and create a variable named myArray. And let's assign it the array function. So we come in here and specify a type code. So the type code specifies the data type of the array. So for an integer array, we use the type code I. So let's put our quotes and then I. And then let's type a comma. And let's provide this a list of integers. Let's print the array. And let's run our program. And you see the integer array. So we can come here and access the individual array elements. So let's put our square brackets, and let's say we want to get the last item in the array. That's at index 2. So you can put that there. Let's run our program, and you see that we get 3 output. We can also append to the array. So let's come here and type myArray.append, and let's append a 4 in there. And we can take this out, and let's run our program. And you see the 4 has been appended to the array. So this array only accepts integers. So if we came here and replaced the 4 with a string and ran the program, you'd see that we get a type error because this is an integer array. So the string will not be accepted. So the next type of array is a floating point number array. So to do that, let's change the type code from I to F. So this right here will treat these values as floating point numbers. So let's delete this line. And let's run our program. And you see that floating point numbers are displayed. The next type of array is a Unicode array. So this accepts single keyboard characters. So let's come here and replace the F with a W. And then let's delete this. And we can either provide a string or a tuple of individual characters. So let's start with the string. So I'll go for hello. And let's go and access one of the elements in this string. So I'll access element 1. Let's run our program. And you see that we get E displayed. So we can also append to this. So let's come here and type myArray.append. And let's put a white space there. And let's go append a name to all of this. So I'll go for J. And let's spell out John. Let's come here and get rid of the element access. And let's run our program. And you see that John has been appended to the Unicode array. So being that this is a Unicode array, you can only append single characters. So if I came here and typed another letter next to this, and you ran the program, you see that you get a type error because you're expected to put single characters into the Unicode array. A dictionary is a collection of key value pairs. Keys must be unique and immutable, such as a string, numbers, and so on. Dictionaries offer fast lookup times and insertion times of O of 1, and dictionaries are also known as maps, hash maps, and associative arrays in other programming languages. The Python dictionary implementations we'll cover are dict, ordered dict, default dict, chain map, and mapping proxy type. The dict data structure is the standard Python dictionary. It's indexed using keys, and here's the format for creating a dictionary. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Let's create a variable named myDictionary. Now let's assign it curly braces. So in the dictionary, we specify the key value pairs. So let's create a key of apple, and then a colon, and a value of 199. let's add another key value pair. Let's call this banana, and let's give it a value. And let's do one more key value pair, and let's name that carrot, and give that a value. Let's print the dictionary, and let's run the program. And you see the dictionary key value pairs. So we can access the values of these keys by specifying the key. So let's go access banana. So let's come here, put your square brackets, and then quotes, and then banana. Let's run the program. And you see that that gives you the value 299. The ordered dictionary preserves the dictionary's key order. You can move and remove elements at the front or end of the dictionary. And here is the format for creating an ordered dictionary. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Before we can create an ordered dictionary, we have to import the ordered dict class from the collections module. So let's come here and type from collections and then import ordered dict. Now let's create a dictionary and assign it some key value pairs. Let's go to the next line and create a variable named myOrderedDictionary. And then let's assign it the ordered dict constructor. So inside of the constructor, we pass the dictionary that we want to order as an argument. So select my dictionary and copy that, come here and paste. And now we have our ordered dictionary. So let's print it out and let's run our program. And you see the ordered dictionary. So the ordered dictionary has some methods that can be used to change the position of key value pairs. So we're going to move the apple key and its value to the end of the dictionary. So let's come here and then type my ordered dictionary. And let's call the move to end method. Type your parentheses. And in there, you specify the key you want to move. So let's come here and type apple. And then type a comma. And then the Boolean value true. So true will move apple and its value to the end of the dictionary. Let's run our program. And you see that apple is moved to the end of the dictionary. So if we change this to false, that will move apple to the start of the dictionary. But it's already there, so let's try carrot. And then let's run our program. And you see the carrot is moved to the start of the dictionary. So we can also remove items from the dictionary using the pop item method. So let's come here and delete this and then type my ordered dictionary and then dot pop item. Type your parentheses. So in there, pass the Boolean value of false. So this will remove the first item from the dictionary. So let's come here and run our program. And you see that it takes out apple and its value from the dictionary. So let's change this to true. And let's run our program. And you see that carrot is taken out of the dictionary. A default dictionary automatically creates a missing key and returns the default values of the missing key. Here is the format for creating a default dictionary, where kwarg is the keyword argument for a valid type of the dictionary key, such as a list, str, or an int. Let's switch to VS Code and create a default dictionary. Before we can use the default dictionary, we have to import the default dict function from the collections module. So let's come here and type from collections and then import default dict. Now we can create a default dictionary. So we will create a default dictionary with integer keys. So let's go to the next line and create a variable named my default dictionary. And then let's assign it the default dict function. Type your parentheses. Now in the parentheses, let's type a data type of int. So this means we will have a default dictionary that contains integer keys. Next, let's create some key value pairs and add them to the default dictionary. So let's select the my default dictionary variable and copy it. Let's go to the next line and paste. And then type your square brackets. And let's give this an integer key of 1, 2, 3. Let's assign it a value of John. Let's select this line and copy it. And then let's paste. Now let's change this key to 456. Now let's give this a value of Jane. Now we have two key value pairs in the dictionary. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of the keys in the default dictionary. So let's go to the next line and write our print function. And there type my default dictionary, and let's call the keys method. So type dot keys. Type your parentheses. Let's run our program. And you see the integer keys in the default dictionary. Now we can access the individual keys and their values. So let's come here and type print, and then my default dictionary, square brackets, and let's go for 1, 2, 3. Let's run our program. And you see that outputs John. So that is an integer default dictionary. Next, we will create a string default dictionary. So let's replace the int type with str. And then let's change these keys to strings. So I'll go for apple for this one. And then I'll go for banana for the second key. And we can replace the values with numbers. So I'll go for 199 here and 299 there. And let's come here and replace 1, 2, 3 with one of the keys. So I'll go for banana. Now let's run our program, and you see the string keys and the value of the banana key. So that is a string default dictionary. Now let's create a list default dictionary. So let's come here and replace str with list. And then let's change this to colors as the name of the list. And then let's go append a value to the list. So get rid of that and then type dot append. And then your parentheses. And let's append a color of red. And then let's come here, replace banana with colors as well. And then let's go append another color. So I'll go for blue. Let's come here and replace banana with colors. And let's run our program. And you'll see the colors list in the default dictionary and its values. A chain map groups multiple dictionaries. And here is the format for creating a chain map. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Before creating a chain map, we have to import the chain map class from the collections module. So let's come here and type from collections and import chain map. Next, let's create two dictionaries. So let's create a variable named my dictionary1, and let's assign it two key value pairs. Let's select this line and copy it, and then paste, and rename this as my dictionary2, and change the keys and the values. So let's make this carrots, and this figs. And we'll make this $3.99 and change that to $4.99. Next, we'll create the chain map object. So let's come here and create a variable named myChainMap. And then let's assign it the chain map constructor. So in the parentheses, you pass the dictionaries. So select my dictionary1 and copy that. Come here and paste and type a comma. Paste again and then change that to my dictionary2. Now let's go print out the chain map. Let's run the program. And you see that we have the two dictionaries in the chain map. And from here, we can access the keys in the chain map. So let's come here, type our square brackets, and let's access figs. Let's run our program. And you see that we get the value for the figs key. So that is a chain map. A mapping proxy type generates a read-only dictionary, and here is the format for creating one. So any changes made to the writable dictionary will be reflected in the read-only dictionary. Let's switch to VS Code and create one. Before using the mapping proxy type, we have to import the mapping proxy type class from the types module. So let's come here and type from types, import mapping proxy type. Next, let's create a dictionary with two key value pairs. So let's go to the next line and create a variable named writable dictionary. And then let's assign it a dictionary with two key value pairs. Next, let's create the mapping proxy type object, which will convert this writable dictionary into a read-only dictionary. So let's go to the next line and create a variable named read-only dictionary. And let's assign it the mapping proxy type constructor. Type your parentheses. So in the parentheses, we will paste the writable dictionary reference. So select writable dictionary and copy it and come here and paste. So this statement converts the writable dictionary into a read-only dictionary. So let's attempt to change a keys value in the read-only dictionary. So select read-only dictionary and copy it. Let's go to the next line and paste. And let's access the Apple key. So type your square brackets and then Apple. Now let's assign a value to Apple. Let's run the program. And you see that we get a type error indicating that assignment is not supported here. Now we can change a key's value in the writable dictionary, and that change will be reflected on the read-only dictionary. So let's come here and select writable dictionary and copy it. And then let's go over read-only dictionary here and paste. And that will assign the new value to the writable dictionary's Apple key. So let's go to the next line and print the read-only dictionary. Let's run the program. And you see that the read-only dictionary's Apple key also has a value of 388. Our next Python data structure is sets. A set is an unordered collection. Sets do not allow duplicate values. Sets allow fast lookup times of O of 1, but they're slow when it comes to inserts. The Python set implementations will cover our set and the counter object from the collections module. A set is mutable, and here is the format for creating one. So let's switch to VS Code and create a set. Let's create a variable named mySet, and let's assign it the set function. So this creates an empty set. So we can initialize this set with iterables. So let's go with a string. Now let's print the set. Let's run the program. And you see our set items. You also notice that the items are unordered. We can also initialize the set with a tuple. So let's come here, select the string, cut it out, and type parentheses, and then paste it. Now we have a set with a tuple in it. So let's run our program. And you see the items there too. And we can also use a list. So let's come here, select these, and then delete it. Type your square brackets, and let's add strings to the list. Let's run the program. And you see our set items. So sets do not allow duplicate values. So let's come here and take these out. And then let's add a string with duplicate items. So I'll go for AA, BB, and CC. Let's run the program. And you see that the duplicate items are not part of that set. Sets are immutable, so we can add items to the set after creating it. So let's come here before the print statement and type mySet. And let's call the add method. And then let's add a single item to the set. Let's run the program. And you see that that item is added to the set. We can create an empty set and then add items to it. So let's come here and delete the string. So we have an empty set. And then let's select this line, copy it, and then paste a few times. And then we can change the values. So I'll go for X, Y, and Z. Let's run the program. And you see the items in the set. The counter object creates a multiset. So an element value can have multiple occurrences. In other words, you can create a set with duplicate values. Here is the format for creating a multiset. So let's switch to VS Code and create one. Before we can create a multiset, we have to import the counter class from the collections module. So let's come here and type from collections and then import counter. Next, let's create the multiset. So let's come here and create a variable named multiset. And then let's assign it the counter constructor. So in the parentheses, type braces, and then let's add an item to the multiset. So let's go for a string. I'll call this A. And right after the quote, type a colon. So what comes here is the count of that item in the multiset. So let's go for 2. So this just means we have 2 copies of A in the multiset. So let's type a comma and add a B there. and let's give it 2 copies as well. And then let's add a C, and let's give that 4 copies. So let's print the multiset. Let's run our program, and you see the items along with their counts. Let's go get the number of unique items in the multiset. So let's come here and select multiset, and then cut it, and then type the len function. And in the parentheses, let's paste multiset. Let's run the program. And you see that we get a count of 3. So this only gives us the number of unique elements in the multiset. So if you wanted to see the total elements, we can do this. So let's come here and replace len with sum. And then after multiset, type dot values and then parentheses. Let's run the program. And you see that we get an 8. So we got 2 plus 2 and 4. And that gives us the total elements in the multiset. And last, we can update the multiset. So let's come here and then type multiset. And let's call the update method. So in there, let's type our braces and let's add some strings. Let's print the set. So let's select this line and replace it. And then let's go run the program. And you see we have the new items added to the multiset along with their counts. Our next data structure is stacks. A stack is a list of elements similar to an array. The data is inserted to the end of the stack or pushed, or data is removed from the end of the stack or popped. This is a last in, first out operation, or LIFO. Only the last element is read. The insert and delete operations of a stack are O of 1 or constant time, and stacks are suitable for undo operations. Let's switch to VS Code and create a stack. Before we can use a stack, we have to import the dict function from the collections module. So let's come here and type from collections and then import dict. Next, we will create the stack. So let's create a variable named myStack. And let's assign it the dict function. Next, we'll add items to the stack. So type myStack and then dot append. And let's append a string. Let's select this line and copy it and paste. And let's change this to a different value. Let's paste again and change that to another value. Let's print the stack and let's run the program. And you see the items in the stack. So we can remove the last item from a stack using the pop method. So let's come here and type myStack and then dot pop parentheses. Let's run the program. And you see that C has been removed from the stack. So that is a stack. Our next data structure is queues. Queues are similar to stacks, and data is inserted to the end of the queue, or data is removed from the start of the queue. This is a first in, first out operation, or FIFO. Only the first element is read. The insert and delete operations of a queue are O of 1 or constant time, and queues are suitable for pooling operations. Let's switch to VS Code and create a queue. Before we can use a queue, we have to import the dict function from the collections module. So let's come here and type from collections, import dict. Next, let's create the queue. So let's come here and create a variable named myQueue. And then let's assign it the dict function. Now we will add items to the queue. So let's come here and type myQueue and call the append method. And let's add a string of A. Select this line, copy it. Let's go here and paste again. And let's change the values. So we now have 3 items in the queue. Let's print the queue and let's run the program. And you see the queue items. Now we will remove an item from the front of the queue. So let's come here and then type myQueue and let's call the pop left method. Let's run the program. And you see that A has been taken out from the front of the queue. Our last data structure is the priority queue. A priority queue is an ordered queue, and data is inserted or deleted from the front of the priority queue. Data is inserted by order, and in a Python priority queue, the highest index has the lowest priority, and vice versa. Priority queues have a delete operation of O of 1. Let's switch to VS Code and create a priority queue. Before we can use a priority queue, we have to import the priority queue class from the queue module. So let's come here and type from queue import priority queue. Next, let's create a priority queue. So let's come here and create a variable named my priority queue. And let's assign it the priority queue constructor. Next, we'll add items to the priority queue. So let's come here and type my priority queue. And let's call the put method. Type your parentheses. So in the parentheses, we pass a tuple. So let's type another set of parentheses. And then let's specify a number of 3. So this is a priority number. So let's type a comma. And then let's give this a value of workout. Let's select this line and copy it. Let's go to the next line and paste. And let's change this priority number to 1. And let's change this to drink water. Let's come here and paste again. And let's change this priority number to 2. And let's change this value to eat food. So our priority queue has 3 items. So let's go retrieve the items in the priority queue. So let's come here and let's type the print function and then type my priority queue and call the get method. Let's run the program. So you see that the item with the priority number of 1 gets displayed. So we can come here and copy this line, hit enter and paste, hit enter and paste again. And let's run the program. And you see that the remaining items by priority are printed out. Next, I'll show you how to access the priority number and its value. So let's come here and delete these. And let's create a variable named result. And let's assign it my priority queue and then call the get method. So this is going to return a tuple. So we can come here and then we can access the elements of the tuple. So let's write our print function and type result, square brackets, and a 0. So that will get us the first element in the tuple. Let's select the print function, copy it, come here and paste. And let's change that to 1. Let's run our program. And you see that we get the individual values of the tuple elements. And last, I'll show you how to use a loop to iterate the priority queue. So let's come here and delete these. And let's write a while loop. So type while, and then we're going to say not my priority queue, and then we'll call the empty method. Type your colon. So this loop will only run provided we have items in the priority queue to iterate. So let's come here and then create a variable named result. And then let's assign it my priority queue and then .get. And then let's go write an F string like this. So once we iterate the priority queue, we will get the individual tuple elements and display them through this F string. So let's run our program. And you see that we get the priority queue items. That is it for the lesson. Thank you for watching and be sure to check out the next one.